What if the truth was hidden in plain sight? Throughout history, we have sought knowledge, but within libraries, another story unfolds: suppression. Some books were deemed too dangerous, locked away from the very minds they were meant to reach. Imagine books so revolutionary they could topple empires. Today, we unearth the top 10 forbidden books in history. We will explore the ideas that sparked revolutions and the knowledge that promised to unlock the secrets of the cosmos. Prepare yourself for a journey into the shadows of literature, where reading is an act of rebellion. Stay with us until number 1. The final revelation may change how you see the world forever. Our journey begins with Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses. Published in 1988, it tells the surreal story of two Indian actors transformed into an archangel and a devil. Rushdie weaves a dream sequence that reimagines moments from the life of the Prophet Muhammad. The book's most infamous passage concerns the Satanic Verses themselves. For millions, this was a direct assault on the word of Allah. Banned in India, Pakistan, Egypt, and a dozen other nations, the book became a symbol of Western arrogance and sacrilege. Protests erupted globally. Copies were publicly burned. It posed a terrifying question: where does the freedom of a writer end and the sanctity of a religion begin? On February 14, 1989, the conflict entered the domain of life and death. Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa calling for Salman Rushdie's execution. A multi-million-dollar bounty forced him into hiding. The fatwa declared words could be a capital offense. The Satanic Verses is a complex novel about the immigrant experience. It explores being caught between cultures, faith, and doubt. The book suggested that everything is a mixture, constantly evolving. This challenged religious authority. Rushdie asserted the right of the artist to question. He was claiming that the stories we tell ourselves about our origins are just that, stories. The fatwa remains a dark shadow over literature. Was the Satanic Verses a calculated insult, or a courageous work exploring our modern world? From religious controversy, we turn to a book born from political dissent. Published in 1971, a raw manual of rebellion. Its author, William Powell, wrote it during the Vietnam War protests, one of the most infamous do-it-yourself guides ever created. The book is notorious for its contents: detailed, step-by-step instructions for manufacturing homemade explosives, constructing rudimentary weapons, and engaging in acts of sabotage. Chapters cover making pipe bombs and Molotov cocktails to freaking phone systems and brewing illicit drugs. It didn't just suggest rebellion, it gave you the recipes for it. While not outright banned, it was immediately placed on government watch lists. The fear was palpable. What would happen if this knowledge fell into the wrong hands? The legacy is a grim one, linked to violence. It became a go-to text for extremists. The book, intended as a symbol of protest against war, ironically became a tool for instigating violence. Decades later, William Powell came to deeply regret his creation. He pleaded for the book to be taken out of print. With the rise of the internet, Powell's attempt to put the genie back in the bottle became impossible. The text was scanned, digitized, and uploaded to countless websites. It is a chilling reminder that once an idea is released into the world, it can never truly be taken back. Some stories are born from truth, others from imagination, but a rare few are forged in the crucible of pure malice, designed to poison the very soul of humanity. Such is the dark legacy of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. First appearing in the Russian Empire, it claimed to be the minutes of a secret meeting of Jewish leaders, plotting to dismantle Christian civilization and seize control. It was a narrative of pure, unadulterated evil, laying out a step-by-step plan for world domination. Investigations traced its origins to the Tsarist secret police. It was a fabrication cobbled together from earlier works. The architects of this lie understood that a compelling story can be more powerful than truth. The power of the Protocols lay in its ability to confirm pre-existing biases. In Russia, it was used to justify pogroms. It gave a seemingly intellectual justification to anti-Semitism. The lie was so potent that it began to take on a life of its own. How does a lie, once proven false, continue to cause so much harm? Despite being debunked, the narrative was useful for those who sought to divide. In the United States, Henry Ford used his fortune to print and distribute 500,000 copies. Those conditions arrived with the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany. For Adolf Hitler, the Protocols were a foundational text, a justification for their ideology. The words of a hoax became the warrant for genocide. Even after the horrors of World War II, the protocols endured. It continues to circulate in the dark corners of the internet. It is a zombie text, a dead idea that still walks the earth. The story of the protocols of the Elders of Zion is a chilling reminder of the tangible power of ideas. It demonstrates how words can be forged into a weapon. Before the Bible, there were whispers of other gospels and prophets. Among these lost scriptures is the Book of Enoch. Attributed to Noah's great-grandfather, it offers a mystical vision of the cosmos and a journey into forbidden theology. It speaks of Enoch's travels through the heavens, guided by angels revealing creation's secrets. Controversially, it tells of the Watchers, angels who fell to earth. They took human wives and taught forbidden arts, unleashing sin and violence. Their offspring, the Nephilim, devoured humanity's resources. This corruption prompted God to cleanse the earth with the Great Flood. The Book of Enoch provides the backstory for Noah's Ark, deemed too fantastical for the Old Testament. Why was this ancient text excluded from the biblical canon? Its vision was deemed too radical. Its angelology and descriptions of heaven and hell went far beyond the scope of the Old Testament. It introduced concepts that blurred the lines between the divine and the demonic. Scholars believe it was written during the Second Temple period. Its central theme presented a profound theological challenge. Despite its exclusion, the Book of Enoch's influence is undeniable. Echoes of its ideas can be found throughout the New Testament. It survived in the traditions of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. It has been a source of fascination for mystics and secret societies. Today, the Book of Enoch continues to captivate those who seek knowledge beyond the mainstream. There are books that challenge our beliefs. There are books that challenge our politics. And then there are books that seem to challenge the very foundations of human sanity. Deep within this last, most dangerous category, we find a work of such profound depravity that its name is still whispered with a mixture of horror and, morbid curiosity. 120 Days of Sodom. Its author, Donatien Alphonse François de Sade, better known as the Marquis de Sade, was an aristocrat whose life of libertinism and scandal saw him imprisoned for much of his adult life. It was within the cold stone walls of the Bastille that he unleashed the darkest parts of his soul onto a 39-foot-long scroll of paper. The book's premise is deceptively simple, a framework for absolute chaos. 4 wealthy, corrupt French libertines, having exhausted every pleasure and perversion known to them, retreat to an impregnable castle in the Black Forest. They are accompanied by a harem of young victims and 4 veteran prostitutes who serve as storytellers. Over the course of 120 days, these storytellers are tasked with narrating 600 unique passions, escalating from the simple to the monstrously complex. The libertines then listen, judge, and reenact these tales upon their captives, creating a meticulously organized descent into a hell of their own making. Is it possible to find meaning in such a monstrous text? De Sade was more than just a libertine. He was a philosopher. 120 Days of Sodom can be read as a brutal philosophical treatise, a direct assault on the Enlightenment ideals. He argues that nature itself is not benevolent, but a chaotic, violent force. The book is also a furious, blasphemous attack on religion and the very idea of God. He forces us to look into an abyss, to consider that this dark impulse is a fundamental part of the human condition. Is it a work of art or a crime scene on paper? It exists at the farthest reaches of expression, a monument to the darkest potentials of the human imagination. Some books are forbidden for their magic, their heresy, or their challenge to social norms. But others are locked away for a far more tangible reason, because their ideas are weapons. They contain blueprints for destruction, not of buildings, but of humanity itself. Within the pages of Mein Kampf or My Struggle, we find such a blueprint written in a prison cell. It is the unfiltered manifesto of a mind that would soon plunge the world into its darkest war. A mind that laid bare its terrifying vision for all to see, long before the first shots were ever fired. The text itself is a chilling fusion of autobiography and political treatise. It details Adolf Hitler's early life, his frustrations, his hatreds, and his radicalization. But it is not merely a personal history. It is a calculated construction of a new reality, one built upon the foundations of racial purity, nationalistic fervor, and a profound, venomous anti-Semitism. Every word is a brick in the wall of a new world order, an order where one race is elevated to the status of gods and all others are condemned to servitude or annihilation. It's a glimpse into the genesis of a nightmare. Why would a man lay out his plans for domination so openly? Perhaps it was arrogance. Perhaps it was a belief that the world was too complacent, too blind to see the storm gathering on the horizon. The book outlines a strategic path to power, a chillingly precise methodology for propaganda for manipulating the masses and for dismantling democratic institutions from within. It argues that truth is irrelevant. What matters is the power of the repeated lie, the simplicity of a single unifying enemy, and the emotional fervor of a crowd. It's a manual for tyranny, written by its most infamous practitioner. The decision to keep Mein Kampf banned was an attempt to cauterize a wound, to prevent the infection of Nazism from ever spreading again. In a world that had witnessed the Holocaust, the idea of this text being freely available seemed like an unforgivable betrayal. In 2016, the copyright expired, and Mein Kampf was republished in Germany with scholarly annotation. The goal was to defang the beast, to turn a weapon of propaganda into a tool for education. Perhaps the only way to fight a dangerous idea is not to silence it, but to overwhelm it with truth. It is a testament to the power of words to shape reality, for good or for ill. In the grand narrative of Christianity, one name is synonymous with ultimate betrayal: Judas Iscariot. For 2,000 years, his story has been a simple, stark warning. He is the villain, the man who sold his Savior for 30 pieces of silver, his name a curse whispered through the ages. His actions set in motion the crucifixion, the cornerstone of the Christian faith. But what if this story, the one told in the canonical Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, is not the only version? What if another, far more ancient text tells a different tale? Around the year 2000, a codex of Coptic papyrus emerged from the sands of Egypt. It had been lost for nearly 1,700 years, a relic of a different kind of Christianity, a Gnostic faith that saw the material world as a prison and salvation as a form of secret knowledge. This text was called the Gospel of Judas. Its contents were explosive. It didn't just challenge the details of the story, it inverted the entire moral structure of the Passion narrative. It proposed a reality so different it was deemed a dangerous heresy by the early church fathers. In this forbidden gospel, Judas is not a traitor. He is the most beloved and enlightened of all the disciples. Jesus speaks to him in confidence, sharing cosmic secrets that the others are not ready to understand. He is the only one who truly grasps the nature of Jesus' mission. The text describes Jesus telling Judas, "You will exceed all of them, for you will sacrifice the man that clothes me." This single line reframes everything. The betrayal is no longer an act of greed, but an act of profound obedience and sacrifice. The Gospel of Judas presents a different universe. In the Gnostic view, the Creator God was flawed and our souls are trapped within our bodies. Jesus guides humanity to escape this prison. Judas wasn't condemning Jesus, he was liberating his spirit. The suppression of this text was pivotal. It was the victory of one version of Christianity. Today, rediscovering this book forces unsettling questions. What other truths were silenced to ensure the dominance of a single narrative? It reveals that history was never a single story. Some books are banned for challenging God or government. Others are banned for a crime perceived to be just as dangerous, challenging the secrets of the human heart and the body that houses it. In 1928, D.H. Lawrence wrote a novel he knew would ignite a firestorm. It was a story not of spies or sorcerers, but of a wealthy married woman, a lady, who finds passion and emotional awakening in the arms of her estate's gamekeeper. The book was Lady Chatterley's Lover, and its crime was honesty. Initially published privately in Italy, the novel was immediately banned in the United Kingdom and the United States for its explicit descriptions of sex. But it was not just the mechanics of the act that scandalized the censors. It was the language Lawrence used. Simple, frank, Anglo-Saxon words that had long been confined to the gutter. He sought to reclaim them, to argue that nothing about the human body or the act of love should be considered dirty. He wanted to portray sex not as a shameful secret, but as a vital, almost spiritual connection between two people. The book circulated for decades in the shadows, smuggled in suitcases and passed between trusted friends, a forbidden treasure. But in 1960, Penguin Books decided to challenge the system. They published the unexpurgated version in the UK, deliberately provoking a landmark legal battle under the new Obscene Publications Act of 1959. The trial that followed was not just about one book. It was a trial about the very definition of art, morality, and the future of literature itself. The fate of free expression hung in the balance. The defense assembled a parade of the country's most respected literary critics, academics, and even clergymen to argue on the book's behalf. They contended that Lady Chatterley's Lover had profound literary merit. It was a serious work of art, a passionate critique of a cold, industrialized society that had lost its connection to nature and to human tenderness. The sexual passages, they argued, were not gratuitous. They were essential to the novel's central theme of rebirth and healing. What truly frightened the censors was not the four-letter words, but the revolutionary ideas they represented. The novel depicts an aristocratic woman, Lady Constance Chatterley, whose husband is paralyzed from the waist down, a symbol of the impotent and sterile upper class. She finds life, warmth, and vitality not with a man of her own station, but with Oliver Mellors, the gamekeeper, a working-class man, deeply connected to the earth. Their affair crosses the rigid, unbreachable lines of the British class system. This was the book's true subversion. It suggested that passion, intelligence, and a rich inner life were not the exclusive property of the elite. It argued that a person's worth was not defined by their social standing or their wealth, but by their capacity for genuine human connection. In the rigid, stratified world of post-war Britain, this was a profoundly dangerous idea. It threatened to upend the social order, to empower women, and to give voice to the working class. The sex was merely the vehicle for a much deeper rebellion. The jury's verdict, not guilty, was a watershed moment. It shattered the power of the censors and ushered in a new era of creative freedom. The book sold millions of copies, its forbidden status making it all the more alluring. Lady Chatterley's Lover proved that literature could be a powerful force for social change. It asked a simple question that still resonates today: what is more obscene? A frank depiction of love between two people, or a society that judges and condemns that love based on class, convention, and fear? Imagine a world where knowledge is a crime. This is the chilling reality painted by Ray Bradbury in Fahrenheit 451, where firemen start fires, targeting books. Bradbury's vision was a profound warning. The ultimate irony is that this book about the horrors of censorship was itself banned. Schools and libraries flagged it, claiming it undermined authority. Its danger was its power to make us look at our world and ask, are we already living in this forbidden story? The book burners embody a society that chose comfort over consciousness. The banning of his book was a terrifying validation of his fears for humanity. What does it truly mean to burn a book? It is an attempt to annihilate an idea, to erase a perspective. It is the belief that one group has the right to decide which thoughts are permissible for all. When the firemen set a library ablaze, they are burning history, philosophy, poetry, and the very possibility of a different future. The protagonist, Guy Montag, begins as an agent of this destruction. Are you happy? This simple inquiry becomes the spark that ignites a fire within his own mind. He discovers that within their pages lies connection. Bradbury's warning resonates with even greater urgency in our digital age. Ideas can be buried under an avalanche of misinformation. The book warns us that the most effective censorship is that which we choose for ourselves. In the end, the message is one of fragile hope. It tells us that as long as a single mind holds on to a story, an idea can never be truly extinguished. The book was banned because when they come for the books, they are really coming for our freedom. We arrive at a book so secret, it has forbidden itself from being understood. This is the Voynich manuscript, a codex from the 15th century. Page after page of elegant script in a language no one has deciphered. For a century, the world's greatest minds have been defeated by it. The mystery deepens with bizarre illustrations. Plants that do not match any known species on Earth. Naked figures bathing in networks of green liquid. It suggests someone possessed knowledge light years ahead of its time. A secret world encrypted so perfectly, it remains locked away. Who is the author of this impossible book? The question haunts every researcher who has ever laid eyes on it. Was it a forgotten genius like Leonardo da Vinci? Some theories even point to extraterrestrial origins. Each theory is more fantastic than the last. The lack of an answer is precisely what makes the Voynich manuscript so powerful. It represents the absolute limit of our knowledge. In a world where information is instantly accessible, this book stands in defiance. It reminds us that the universe is still vast and filled with secrets. It is the ultimate forbidden knowledge because it is knowledge we cannot access. Could the manuscript be a sophisticated hoax? Ultimately, the Voynich manuscript may be a message not from the past, but for the future. Maybe its true purpose is to remain a mystery forever, reminding us that there are whispers from the cosmos that we simply cannot understand. We have journeyed through the fire, deciphered Gospels, and seen how a single book can spark a revolution or rewrite the very foundations of faith. These forbidden texts hold a power that terrifies authority, the power to make us think and question. Banning a book is about controlling a narrative, born from fear of change and losing power. But ideas are resilient, like water, eventually breaking through. Be brave, be critical, and never accept a locked door at face value. The quest for truth is an endless journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Behind the Taste, where the truth doesn't sleep.